Hello, and we're going to be talking about the purification of soul, and the purification of the little self. This light and sound, or the Holy Spirit, or the Vardan, has two waves. One wave moves from the Godhead, or the ocean of love and mercy, where dwells. These are the pure positive God worlds, and it moves down and manifests these various planes. And you can see the God worlds chart on our website, and I'm also going to have it on this video. And the pure positive God worlds are beyond time and space. It's beyond the mind. It's the dwelling place of soul. This light and sound moves down, and I'm just going to briefly touch upon this because I've talked about it in other videos, and I want to get to the topic at hand of the purification of the little self and the purification of soul. This wave moves down through the various planes, manifesting each plane and manifesting as various rulers of these planes, who then in turn create, manifest these planes as transformers, or sort of similar to step down transformers in a power system, where you have Niagara Falls generates all this power, and now this power goes through various stages, because you can't plug your toaster into Niagara Falls, you'd blow up the whole house or burn the house down. So anyway, this wave of light and sound moves down into the various planes, and there's many of them, starting from the HURAY world and the 12th plane, and there's others beyond that, but I'm not even going to go into that now. And it moves down through the various levels until it hits the soul plane, which is the 5th world, and it's still pure positive, and then it moves down and breaks into the worlds of duality, the worlds of time and space, and soul starts to acquire these lower bodies. The etheric body, which is the high mind or subconscious, the mental body, the causal body, which is the lower mind, and the area of memory, where past lives are. The Akashic records, which carry past lives, memories of past lives on Earth and on the astral. We go down to the astral, which is the emotional body, which is also known as the light body. And each body corresponds to a plane, and each plane corresponds to a body. In other words, we have to interact with these planes in the body. Anyway, this light and sound finally goes into physical, and then it comes out like this great wave down to these planes, and then it returns. So there's a descending wave that issues out from the Godhead, going down, and then there's an ascending wave, a returning wave, which returns back up. The most important of these, for soul, in soul's case, is the returning wave, or the ascending wave, and that's the wave that we grab a hold of while doing Out of Body Tuza travel. And we do this through the spiritual exercises of VARDANKAR. VARDANKAR is the ancient science of Out of Body Tuza travel. The word Tuza meaning soul. So Out of Body Tuza travel, Out of Body soul travel, Out of Body projection. It's been known by many names, but it's not meditation. Meditation is passive. As we're following this wave back to the Godhead, we go through a purification process. We've acquired millions and millions of years of karma, of different lifetimes that we've gone through in various planets, continents. We have this long series of lifetimes on the various lower planes. And by the way, the astral plane is also, some people, they call it the astral body is the light. Some people call it the light body. And a lot of people confuse the astral body with soul. And it's also where astral projection comes from. And so soul is constantly shuffling in its incarnations from the physical to the astral. And sometimes it'll touch into the causal, maybe the mental, and go back down into the physical. So it's constantly moving, if moving is the right word, because we're beyond time and space. And so there's this motion that occurs, or the illusion of motion. And this is done through what is known as the Wheel of 84, of transmigration, of reincarnation. The Wheel of 84 is various cycles of the zodiac, if you want to say the zodiac, or the VARDANKar. And soul goes through all kinds of different experiences, and different personalities, different bodies, different cultures. And there's an actual plan or cyclical rhythm to the experiences, and soul will incarnate as a male and a female, and back and forth, and sometimes we'll have a succession of incarnations of one particular sex. So we'll end up through this. There's a pattern there, there's a plan, and it's individualized for each soul, but there's a certain mechanicalness to it, almost like an extremely complex watch. And there's this Wheel of 84. When soul moves on it, it's like being stuck in a clock, and there's lifetime after lifetime, and soul goes through all these different cycles and personality types, and there's even books that go into it in a very crude sort of way. They talk about different personality types, and the astrological books, and all this stuff is just mechanical in nature. The mind itself, when soul takes on a mind, all the lower bodies, in fact, including the physical, are mechanical in nature. So we accumulate this karma, which is simply cause and effect. It's a if you punch a wall, you hurt your hand. If you shove somebody, it creates a force, a counter force. And of course, there are cases where we're forced to, in self-defense and things like that. But we basically play this game on this wheel. Well, after a while, soul gets really sick of it, and it begins to desire God above all else, and it desires to return. The only way it's going to actually return to the Godhead, because there's so many planes, and there's so much complexity. If you look at the Godwell's chart, you can see it shows 12 planes, but there's actually more than that. But within each of these planes are subplanes, limitless states, almost limitless states of consciousness. And I mean, all you have to do is look at the physical, and you can see how many different states of consciousness there are in the physical plane. It's huge. Even the Earth, or even New York City. And I've talked about this. I apologize, but this, as we're moving up, we're riding this returning wave back to the Godhead. We need a soul. We need to be linked with this light and sound, and we need to have spiritual instruction so that we're not completely lost and get sidetracked, on part of the astral plane. There's lower astral, mid astral, high astral, and even within that are many places, many cities, the astral is much larger than the physical, and that's just the astral. So there's a tremendous, it's very easy to get lost and confused and deluded, because as you go higher, it gets more of spirit, so it becomes much more refined and much more pleasant. Thus, a lot of these near-death experiences that people have are actually these lower world planes, but they're amazing experiences for the individual, but they're not spiritual liberation or Javan Mukti, which is spiritual liberation. The goals of VARDANKAR are self-realization, which occurs on the fifth plane, and God realization, which starts on the Anami Lok, which is the 10th plane, and moves through the 11th and 12th into full God realization. If you can say there is such a thing as full God realization, there's always a plus factor. Now, here's where some of the problems come in. It sounds very simple, and it actually is simple. This following this returning wave back into the heart of God. It sounds very simple, and it is simple. However, there's certain things that have to be done, and it's kind of a paradox. Soul exists beyond time and space. Soul is actually that drop of the HURAY, or God, this pure positive consciousness. If you can even define soul, there's really very little that can be said about soul. Its chief modus operandi is through seeing, knowing, and being, or beingness. And soul has a 360-degree viewpoint, and it's capable of total awareness. It has the same qualities as God, just as a drop of water has the same qualities as the ocean. But there's really very little you can say about soul. It's our true self. It's our eternal self, and soul is eternal. But soul takes on these various embodiments or forms, and in particular the mind body, which begins to rapidly outcreate it and create. It goes into these worlds of illusion below the fifth plane, or the soul plane, or the Atma Lok. And when it goes into the etheric plane and the mental plane and so on, causal, astral, down to the physical, we're getting thicker and thicker, more and more matter and less spirit. And so there's a tremendous amount of illusion, or Maya. This illusion is overpowering in most cases. And soul begins to be outcreated by the mind, which is a very powerful instrument. The mind is like this incredibly powerful machine that is completely just like a giant motor or turbine. Is powered by spirit. When you take away spirit, the mind is nothing. It ceases to have any power, like all machines. If you take an electric motor and you cut off its electricity, it becomes a hunk of metal. The mind is animated by spirit and through soul. However, the mind, being a machine in nature and running in grooves, is a tremendous force, although a mechanical one in nature. And so you can maybe imagine these countless lifetimes that we're going through, and how much karma and how many incarnations we're experiencing, that we rapidly take on a tremendous amount of what's the word? Soul becomes the effect. And soul needs to be cause, or it needs to at least know that it's at the effect. So it's a conscious effect. In other words, you're at the effect of something, but you allow it to, you're allowing it to occur. So you're agreeing to be at the effect of something. Therefore, there's a conscious decision. Problem is, when we don't make a conscious decision, we simply at the effect of it. This is what tends to happen in our countless incarnations. We become the effect of this negative consciousness. So we're experiencing these various worlds of our own creation, which exist internally. They also exist externally. And so souls are sharing experiences. So we have the inner worlds and we have the outer worlds, and they're mirrors of each other. But we're actually creating this. And I don't want to get too zen-y or zen-like, because all of this is really mostly of the mental, the mind. But the point is that the reality of the lower world is not the true reality of the higher